We continue to learn more about what was happening in the lead up to January 6th, and Donald Trump's direct role in the planning for what would happen that day is becoming a little bit more clear. Apparently, he made several calls directly from the White House to people at the Willard Hotel in their war room that they were setting up. And to try to figure out ways to stop Joe Biden from becoming president. The former president made several calls. That includes to lawyers and non-lawyers separately, as Rudy Giuliani did not want non-lawyers to participate on legal calls and jeopardize attorney-client privilege. They apparently knew that that would be important going forward, which is always a good sign. The former president's remarks came as part of strategy discussions he had with the White House, with lieutenants at the Willard, a team including Giuliani, Eastman, who we've talked about quite a bit. He had that little post-it note that had plans for the coup on it. Boris Epshteyn and Steve Bannon as well. So just makes me a little bit more interested to see what's going to happen when he inevitably has to testify before Congress. Trump's remarks, The Guardian points out, show a direct line from the White House and that command center at the Willard. And by the way, up until this point, several Trump lawyers at the Willard deny that Trump was involved in this. They say that they only considered delaying Biden's certification at the request of state legislators because of voter fraud. And by the way, just in general terms, the White House and the Willard had, the people involved in it had tried to pretend that these were independent things that were going on. But it is very clear that that is not the case, not only because his legal team was literally at the Willard, people like Steve Bannon that he's apparently besties with again were at the Willard, but he's literally calling them on multiple different lines to communicate with them. And I want to give you a little bit more information about the timeline here. Trump's call came a day after Eastman outlined at a January 4th meeting at the White House how he thought Pence could usurp his role in order to stop Biden's certification from happening at the joint session that would happen on the 6th. At the meeting, which was held in the Oval Office and attended by Trump, Pence, Pence's chief of staff, Mark Short, and his legal counsel, Greg Jacob, Eastman presented a memo that detailed how Pence could insert himself into the certification and delay the process. So we know that that is what Eastman had been pushing for, despite the fact that Eastman just a couple of months ago was like, I never thought that it would happen or could happen. I only went to the White House and did a whole presentation about how awesome it would be. But apparently it was fairly clear from that meeting that Pence was not going to go along with it. We don't know exactly what Pence or his legal counsel or chief of staff said, but they left the meeting not believing that Pence would play ball with them. Trump told Bannon of Pence he's arrogant, which was his way of saying that Pence wasn't going to try to overthrow democracy. That's one way, I guess, to word that. And anyway, they knew that that plan wouldn't work, so they did have a fallback plan. That was that Trump and his lieutenants appeared to settle on cajoling Republican members of Congress to raise enough objections so that even without Pence adjourning the joint session, the certification process would be delayed for states to send Trump slates. Now, this is where it gets even dirtier because that was their backup plan. We want Pence to overthrow democracy, but he's not gonna do it. So I guess we'll just try to slow the process down, derail it until we can have a little bit of weird mud being kicked up constitutionally by these alternate slates of objectors. Okay, so what actually happened on the 6th? Well, their congressional allies threw up a bunch of objections and tried to derail the process. And then the attack happened, and Donald Trump internally was receiving a lot of pressure to tell them immediately to back off. He did not do that. Now, why would you want Congress being unable to finish the certification? Well, if your plan was to delay it until the alternate slates could do some voodoo or whatever, well, that seems pretty consistent with what he was doing. And so what they appear to be describing here, and The Guardian says that they have 3 different sources for this that were involved in these conversations, was that they had a plan leading up to the 6th to delay the certification from happening. And by the way, we're also sort of glossing over the fact that Donald Trump was definitely planning to not allow democracy to continue. We've just accepted that. Now we're all into process and timelines and who called from who, and we'll talk a little bit about which phone they used in a little bit. But the fundamental fact that Donald Trump was trying to stop the duly elected president from being inaugurated, we just sort of accept that at this point. And it's really weird, the people that are not bothered by that. In any event, this will certainly be a topic of conversation at the congressional investigation, the January 6th commission that'll be going on. The various people that are gonna be called to testify, many of them were on these phone calls, were at these meetings, But some of the content of the calls will be difficult to actually verify outside of the anonymous sources that the Guardian has, which I'm sure are talking to Congress as well. And why is that? Well, the White House residence and its yellow Oval Room, a Trump favorite supposedly, is significant since communications there, including from a desk phone, are not automatically memorialized in records sent to the National Archives after the end of an administration. So it is entirely possible that those calls were not logged, that they were not saved, and we will never know exactly what was said on them, except that at least 3 different people are saying that this is what was talked about on those conversations. Now we have to be fair. We have to allow a response from Trump and his camp. Liz Harrington, whose job seems to consist of taking his statements and putting them on Twitter, she told Hugo Lowell, one of the reporters for The Guardian, that it was totally false. She didn't give any specifics. She didn't claim what was false. I mean, I guess everything. Well, like he claimed that you made phone calls. Did you never make any phone calls? Like it's just all false, all of it. He's lying. I feel very confident to just say that he's lying. And at this point, the only way that any of this matters or that it leads to anything is if the January 6th Commission does something about it, and if that eventually ties in the DOJ. As of right now, the DOJ has not gotten involved in really any of this aside from Steve Bannon. And that is from all the way back to the pressure that was put on elections administrators in Georgia. They're not really doing anything so far, no matter how dirty what we're finding out is. There have been no consequences so far. We will have to see as we go forward with the commission if anything, in fact, will come from it.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.